Look around almost any city today, and you're surrounded by a perfectly engineered grid. We build our modern world out of rigid boxes, sharp right angles, and straight lines because it's the most efficient way to manufacture materials at scale. But our brains never evolved to process that specific geometry. Spending most of our waking hours navigating hard, artificial grids creates a subtle but constant level of visual friction, leading to chronic psychological stress and mental fatigue. This is why, when we feel overwhelmed, our immediate human instinct is to get outside. We head to a dense forest or a sprawling beach. In those spaces, the harsh geometry disappears, and our bodies experience a deep, automatic relaxation response, which raises a question about how we construct our daily lives. What if the human-made buildings we live and work in could be built to trigger that exact same natural relaxation, instead of contributing to that friction? In the late 19th century, a visionary Spanish architect named Antoni Gaudí decided to find out. He rejected the rigid straight line, choosing instead to lift his structural blueprints directly from the physical world around him. He recognized that nature had already spent millions of years pressure testing and perfecting its own structural engineering, and he was determined to apply that logic to human architecture. Gaudí started with a basic observation. Straight lines almost never appear in nature. A straight vertical pole is highly vulnerable to breaking under pressure. It's an inefficient way to manage massive physical forces like gravity and wind. To test this observation on a massive human scale, he began work on his masterpiece in Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia. Before Gaudí, architects building traditional stone cathedrals faced a major physical constraint. To support incredibly tall, heavy ceilings, they had to prop up the outer walls with massive, bulky exterior support brackets, known as flying buttresses. Gaudí found an elegant solution in the forest canopy. He designed interior columns that branch out like ancient trees. The ceiling's massive weight presses through these branching nodes, funneling smoothly into a single, sturdy trunk, eliminating the need for bulky exterior buttresses. By pulling his structural mechanics directly from the forest, he engineered vast, stable, and sunlit interior spaces that were previously considered impossible to build in stone. To achieve this level of stability, Gaudí relied on a specific physical mechanism known as the catenary arch. The physics are simple. Drop a chain between 2 points, and gravity pulls it into a natural U-shape. Freeze that exact curve and flip it upside down. The tension converts into downward compression, creating an arch of exceptional structural efficiency. This photo shows exactly how that physical principle translates into real-world engineering. These inverted U-shapes form the primary skeleton holding up the interior of his buildings. Rather than forcing arbitrary shapes onto the stone, Gaudí was allowing natural physics to draft the safest, most stable architecture for him. This approach to engineering also shaped the aesthetics of his finished structures. When you look at the facade of Casa Batlló, you see a fluid, almost living exterior. The undulating walls mimic fluid dynamics, avoiding harsh lines, while the balconies borrow from the structural efficiency of skeletal anatomy. This biomimicry extends all the way to the roofline, where the tiles are layered to resemble the scales on a dragon's back. These forms often share a mathematical foundation with the golden ratio, a proportion found in nature from the spiral of a seashell to the branching of trees. Because our brains are wired to find these specific natural patterns harmonious, these structures feel instinctively right to the human eye. By anchoring his designs in these universal principles rather than human fashion, Gaudí created buildings that resonate just as strongly today as they did a century ago. There is a scientific reason why these natural forms feel so good to us. It's a concept called biophilia, which describes the deep evolutionary wiring that compels humans to connect with living systems. For millions of years, our ancestors relied on natural environments to survive. Over time, our brains became hardwired to recognize flowing curves and branching structures as biological signals of safety, shelter, and abundance. When we enter a space built with these natural forms, it activates the body's relaxation response, which can lower heart rates and reduce blood pressure. These organic spaces also trigger attention restoration theory. They provide an environment where our minds can recover from the cognitive fatigue caused by the harsh, rigid geometry of modern life. Gaudí didn't merely design beautiful buildings, he engineered biological habitats. He proved that to build spaces that make us feel secure and truly human, we don't need to invent new shapes. We just need to remember the ones nature has already perfected.